Your great-grandmother probably knew how to grow tomatoes in January. Your grandmother might have remembered your mother never learned, and you have no idea it was ever possible. During World War II, families across Europe and Asia grew fresh vegetables in -30-degree temperatures, underground gardens that eliminated winter entirely, trenches that produced citrus in frozen wastelands, pits that kept families alive when the surface world turned to ice. This knowledge saved millions of lives. Then refrigerators arrived, supermarkets opened, and within one generation these techniques disappeared, buried in archives, lost in translation, forgotten by the grandchildren of the people who survived because of them. But the Earth has not changed. The physics remain the same. 12 underground garden designs that still work exactly as they did 80 years ago. 12 ways to feed your family when modern systems fail and winter comes for everything above ground. Number 1. The Soviet fruit trench. In 1920, the Soviet Union faced an impossible problem. They needed citrus fruit, lemons for tea, oranges for vitamins. But citrus trees die at -2°C. Soviet winters dropped to -30. Importing was not an option. The government demanded self-sufficiency. So Soviet scientists did something nobody believed possible. They buried the trees, not the way you bury seeds. They dug trenches 6 to 8 feet deep, planted dwarf citrus trees inside. The trench walls were sloped to catch winter sunlight. The bottom stayed warm because the earth below the frost line never freezes. In winter, they covered the trenches with wooden boards and straw mats. No glass, no electricity, no heating systems, just earth and geometry. The results shocked the world. By 1950, the Soviet Union had 30,000 hectares of underground citrus gardens, producing 200,000 tons of fruit every year. Oranges and lemons growing in conditions that should kill them in hours. The secret was temperature differential. The air above might be -30 degrees. But inside the trench, the temperature stayed between 2 and 4 degrees Celsius, warm enough for dormant citrus to survive. When spring came, the covers were removed, the trees woke up and produced fruit. Families who learned this technique never went without fresh citrus again, even in the deadliest winters, even when everything above ground froze solid. Number 2, the WWII pit greenhouse. High in the Andes Mountains of Bolivia, families face brutal conditions, freezing nights, intense sun, thin air that makes growing food nearly impossible. But these families have been growing vegetables year-round for generations. Their secret is called a WWII. The word means place of warmth in the Aymara language, and that is exactly what it creates. A WWII is a rectangular hole dug 6 to 8 feet into the earth. The roof is made of plastic sheeting stretched over a simple frame. One side of the hole is deeper than the other. This creates an angled roof that faces the sun. The design costs between $250 and $300. No electricity required, no heating bills. The earth provides all the warmth. At 6 feet deep, the ground temperature stays around 55 degrees Fahrenheit. It does not matter if the air above drops to -30, the pit stays warm. During the day, sunlight enters through the plastic roof. The earth walls absorb this heat. At night, they release it slowly. The temperature inside rarely drops below 50 degrees, even in the coldest winters. Families grow tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, and leafy greens all year. The same vegetables that would die instantly if planted on the surface. One hole in the ground, one piece of plastic, 12 months of fresh food. This is what your great-grandmother understood that modern technology has made us forget. Number 3, the Korean Ondol greenhouse. 500 years before World War II, Korean gardeners solved the winter growing problem. Their solution was so advanced that historians now call it the world's first active greenhouse. The year was 1450. The location was the royal palace. The challenge was growing fresh vegetables for the king during winter. The solution was a system called ondel. Ondel is underfloor heating. A fire burns in a furnace outside the growing room. Hot air and smoke travel through channels beneath the floor. The floor heats up, the room stays warm. Korean gardeners built small greenhouse structures and installed ondel systems beneath them. The fire from cooking dinner also heated the greenhouse floor. No wasted energy, no separate heating system. The same fire that fed the family also grew their food. Documents from 1438 describe these heated greenhouses in detail. Vegetables growing in winter, fresh food for the royal family when everything outside was frozen, This technology spread to common families over the centuries. By World War II, Korean households were using andal greenhouses to supplement their food supply. The Japanese occupation made food scarce. Underground heated gardens helped families survive. The principle remains exactly the same today. Heat the floor heats the air. The air keeps plants alive. Simple physics that conquered winter 5 centuries ago. Number 4. The Victorian hotbed. Before electricity existed, families needed another heat source for winter growing. They found it in their barns: horse manure. Fresh horse manure generates tremendous heat as it decomposes. Temperatures can reach 140 degrees Fahrenheit in the center of a manure pile. Victorian gardeners learned to harness this heat for growing vegetables. The method was called a hotbed. You dig a pit about 2 to 3 feet deep. Fill the bottom with fresh horse manure mixed with straw. Pack it tightly. The manure begins decomposing immediately. Within 4 days, the temperature rises dramatically. You cover the manure with 6 to 12 inches of soil. Then place a glass frame on top. The decomposing manure heats the soil from below. The glass traps sunlight from above. Inside this simple structure, temperatures stay between 70 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Even when outside temperatures drop below freezing, the heat lasts about 2 months before the manure fully decomposes. Then you rebuild with fresh materials. Families using this method started their spring vegetables months early. Tomatoes and peppers growing in February. Seedlings ready for transplant when the ground finally thawed. No electricity, no gas, no heating bills. Just animal waste that would otherwise be thrown away. Your great-great-grandmother probably used this exact method. Her great-grandmother definitely did. Number 5. The French intensive cloche system. Paris in the 1800s was famous for something unexpected. Winter vegetables. French market gardeners grew fresh produce year-round using a system of glass bell jars called cloches. The word cloche means bell in French. And that is exactly what they looked like. Heavy glass domes, about 18 inches tall. Gardeners placed these cloches over individual plants or small groups of seedlings. Each cloche created a miniature greenhouse, trapping heat during the day, releasing it slowly at night. The temperature under a cloche stays 10 to 15 degrees warmer than the outside air. But the French did not stop there. They combined cloches with hotbeds and cold frames. They created intensive growing systems that produced 9 harvests per year from the same soil. During World War II, this knowledge became critical for survival. French families who remembered the old techniques could grow food when German occupation made supplies scarce. The glass cloches protected plants from frost. The hotbeds beneath provided warmth. The cold frames extended the season in both directions. Layers of protection that added up to year-round food production. A single cloche costs almost nothing to make today. Glass bowls work. Plastic containers work. Even cut plastic bottles work. The principle is unchanged. Trap warmth around individual plants. Protect them from frost. Extend the growing season by months. Number 6. The Chinese passive solar greenhouse. China has over 2 million hectares of passive solar greenhouses. That is more greenhouse space than the rest of the world combined, and almost none of them use supplemental heating. The Chinese passive solar greenhouse design is brilliantly simple. 3 walls are made of thick brick or rammed earth. Only the south-facing wall is transparent. This is the opposite of Western greenhouses, which are glass on all sides. The thick north wall serves 2 purposes. It blocks cold winter winds, and it absorbs heat during the day, then releases it at night. This is called thermal mass. The more mass, the more heat storage. Chinese greenhouses often have walls 2 to 3 feet thick. During the day, sunlight enters through the south-facing plastic or glass. The north wall absorbs this energy. At night, a thick blanket is rolled over the transparent wall. This traps the heat inside. The thermal mass releases warmth slowly through the darkness. Inside temperatures stay between 50 and 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Outside temperatures can drop to -20. The design works entirely on physics. No electricity, no heating fuel, just intelligent use of sunlight and earth. Families in northern China grow tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, and melons all winter. Fresh food in conditions that should make farming impossible. Number 7. The cold frame pit. The simplest underground growing design is also one of the most effective. The cold frame pit combines 2 ancient techniques: a sunken growing area and a transparent cover. You dig a pit 1 to 2 feet deep, The walls can be woodstone or packed earth. The cover is glass or clear plastic angled toward the sun, that is the entire structure. But the results are remarkable. The sunken design puts your plants below the frost line. Ground temperature at 2 feet is significantly warmer than air temperature. The transparent cover traps solar heat during the day. The earth walls absorb and store this warmth. At night, the stored heat releases slowly. Inside temperatures stay 15 to 20 degrees warmer than outside air. This extends the growing season by 6 to 8 weeks on each end. You can plant earlier in spring. You can harvest later in fall. In mild winters, you can grow cold, hardy vegetables straight through. Lettuce, spinach, kale, carrots, and radishes all thrive in cold frame pits. The construction takes a single afternoon. The materials cost almost nothing. A few boards, a piece of glass or plastic, an hour of digging. Families during World War II built these by the thousands. They were the difference between fresh vegetables and scurvy, between health and malnutrition, between survival and starvation. Number 8. The lean-to attached greenhouse. During harsh winters, the warmest place on any property is the south-facing wall of the house. Heat escapes through walls constantly. A south-facing wall also absorbs direct sunlight all day. This creates a microclimate, several degrees warmer than the surrounding air. Wartime families learned to exploit this free heat source. They built simple greenhouse structures leaning against their south walls. These lean-to greenhouses shared warmth with the house. During the day, the greenhouse collected solar heat. Some of this heat transferred into the house, reducing heating costs. At night, heat escaping from the house kept the greenhouse warmer than freestanding structures. The shared wall design cut construction costs in half. Only 3 walls needed to be built instead of 4. The house wall provided structure, insulation, and thermal mass. Families grew vegetables inches from their kitchen windows, fresh food, without stepping outside into the cold. The warmth from cooking and daily activities supplemented the greenhouse temperature, a pot of soup simmering on the stove. Body heat from the family gathered inside. All of it leaked through the wall and helped plants survive. This symbiotic design required no additional heating in most climates. The house heated the greenhouse insulated the house. Both benefited from the connection. Number 9. The earth-bermed greenhouse. If you cannot dig down, you can pile up. Earth-bermed greenhouses use soil pushed against the walls instead of soil removed from a pit. The principle is identical. Earth provides insulation. Earth provides thermal mass. Earth maintains stable temperatures, regardless of outside conditions. You build a simple greenhouse structure with solid north, east, and west walls. Only the south wall is transparent. Then you pile earth against the 3 solid walls. 2 to 4 feet of soil creates significant insulation. The earth buffers temperature swings in both directions. Hot summer days stay cooler inside. Cold winter nights stay warmer. The temperature stabilizes around 50 to 55 degrees year-round. This matches the deep earth temperature in most climates. Bermed greenhouses require no excavation. This makes them suitable for areas with high water tables or rocky soil. You cannot dig a pit in solid rock, but you can pile earth against walls anywhere. Wartime families in mountainous regions used this technique extensively. The materials were free. The labor was straightforward. The results were reliable fresh food when the alternative was hunger. Earth-bermed structures also provide excellent protection from wind. The soil mass blocks gusts that would otherwise steal heat through every crack and gap. Number 10. The thermal mass water barrel system. Water is one of the best heat storage materials on Earth. It absorbs more energy per pound than almost any common substance. It releases that energy slowly and steadily. Wartime families discovered that adding water barrels to any greenhouse dramatically improved winter performance. The technique is simple. Place large containers of water inside your growing space. Position them where they receive direct sunlight. Paint them black to increase heat absorption. During the day, the water absorbs solar energy. The temperature rises slowly because water resists temperature change. At night, the process reverses. The water releases stored heat into the greenhouse air. Temperatures stay more stable with less dramatic swings between day and night. Modern calculations suggest 2.5 gallons of water per square foot of greenhouse space. A modest 8 by 12 greenhouse would need 240 gallons. That is roughly 4 55-gallon drums. These drums cost little or nothing. Food-grade barrels are often free from restaurants and food processors. The water costs nothing. The benefits are substantial. Greenhouses with thermal mass water systems can maintain temperatures 10 to 15 degrees warmer at night. That difference determines whether plants survive or freeze, whether families eat fresh food or go hungry. Number 11. The underground root cellar garden. Root cellars have existed for thousands of years. Underground rooms that maintain stable, cool temperatures for food storage. But during World War II, some families discovered that root cellars could grow food too, not in the traditional sense. The darkness prevents normal plant growth, but root vegetables can be forced in root cellar conditions. Forcing means encouraging growth from stored energy rather than photosynthesis. You take mature root vegetables like carrots, beets, turnips, and parsnips. You pack them in containers of damp sand or soil. You place these containers in the root cellar, where temperatures stay between 32 and 40 degrees. The vegetables do not grow larger, but they produce fresh greens. Carrot tops sprout and provide fresh salad greens in mid. Beet greens emerge tender and nutritious. These forced greens prevented vitamin deficiencies when other fresh vegetables were impossible to obtain. The root cellar also stored vegetables for 6 to 10 months. Potatoes, carrots, beets, parsnips, turnips, and cabbage all survived underground through entire winters. Families that built and maintained root cellars had fresh food from October through May. While their neighbors ate preserved and dried foods, those families had something resembling a normal diet. Underground storage turned a single harvest into year-round sustenance. Number 12. The Soviet creeping plant trench. The final design is perhaps the most ingenious. Soviet scientists discovered that they could grow fruit trees in extreme cold by changing the shape of the tree itself. Normal fruit trees grow upward, 12 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet tall. This height exposes them to cold winds and frigid air temperatures. But what if the tree stayed close to the ground? Soviet horticulturists developed creeping fruit trees. Trees pruned to grow horizontally just 6 to 12 inches above the soil. The crown spread outward like a spider instead of upward like a tower. At ground-level temperatures are significantly warmer than at standing height. Wind speed drops dramatically. A gentle breeze at eye level becomes almost still air at ankle height. These creeping trees were planted in shallow trenches, just deep enough to provide additional wind protection. The result was remarkable. Fruit trees survived temperatures of -15 degrees Celsius, with nothing but a cloth cover for protection. Trees that would have frozen solid at normal height thrived at ground level. Families grew apples, pears, and even citrus using this method. The trees required more ground space but far less protection. The earth itself provided the warmth. Geometry provided the shelter, and families provided the patience to train trees into unnatural shapes that yielded very natural results. You now know 12 underground garden designs that fed families during the darkest years of human history. The Soviet fruit trench that grew citrus at -30 degrees. The WWII pit greenhouse that costs less than $300. The Korean ondol system that heated growing spaces 500 years ago. The Victorian hotbed that turned animal waste into summer temperatures. The French cloche system that produced 9 harvests per year. The Chinese passive solar greenhouse that covers 2 million hectares today. The cold frame pit that any family can build in an afternoon. The lean-to greenhouse that shares warmth with your home. The earth-bermed design for rocky or wet ground. The thermal mass water system that stores free solar heat. The root cellar garden that forces fresh greens in darkness. And the creeping plant trench that kept fruit trees alive through impossible winters. This knowledge almost disappeared. One more generation, and it would have been gone completely. Lost to grocery stores and refrigerators, and the belief that food comes from somewhere else. But you have it now, written in your memory. Ready when you need it. When the power fails, when the supply chain breaks, when winter comes, and the unprepared go hungry, you will know what your great-grandmother knew. The earth provides warmth, the sun provides light, and knowledge provides everything else.